start the session. So, welcome,
Yes.
welcome everybody. I'm Ashley. I'm your facilitator, and today we're going to do a story circle. And basically, the aim is to know each other's stories, to get a new perspective, and learn something new. I need to do a ritual with you guys, so let's do 10 seconds of closing your eyes and just think about something that you're grateful for, so we set a positive vibe for the story circle. Okay? Okay. Yeah, just 10 seconds, focus. You don't have to close your eyes if you don't want to. Okay. So we're gonna start with everybody introducing their name and 3 words that describe themselves. I'm gonna start so I can break the ice. I'm Ashley. I would say I'm very curious, I'm bubbly, and I'm adventurous.
Okay, so I'm going to continue. My name is Yasmin. I would also describe myself as curious, empathetic, and as a baking enthusiast.
Okay, my name is Yuna. I would describe myself as creative, as a nature lover, and also as curious.
My name is Ivan, and I will also describe myself as creative, also curious, and I would say artistic.
My name is Valentina, and I will describe myself as creative, curious, and always wanting to learn more.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Oh.
I'm here.
I'm so sorry. I'm a
My
bad
name-
facilitator. Yes, sorry.
My name is Julio. I will describe myself as resilient, creative, and gentle.
Okay, perfect. Sorry again. Thank you for sharing so much. In the next round, we're gonna go a little bit deeper into intercultural interactions. I'm gonna read the question that you guys need to answer, and it's describe a time when you realized you believed in a stereotype that was not true, and what happened. So for me, that was in Vietnam. And I heard that stereotype that Asian people are very reserved and very quiet and to themselves. But actually, when I was there and I was shopping for clothes, they were asking me about my size and my weight. And the one woman squeezed my belly and was like, "Yeah, I think you don't need to eat more because that's already enough." And that was something I really didn't expect because I had that stereotype about them. But I left in the end. We both left, and it was like a new experience for me. Okay, the next one.
Okay. Okay, then I'm just going to continue. So for me, it was like before I started teaching German to adults, I knew that both men and women from Middle Eastern countries would be attending my class. And I immediately had the stereotype or even prejudice that as a young woman, it would be harder to get the respect of the men and that they might be less eager to learn compared to the women. But I was very wrong. And in fact, teaching them worked out wonderfully. And it was often like the men who listened respectfully, actively participated in the lessons, and always treated me with like respect as their teacher.
Oh, June, we cannot hear you right now. At least I cannot hear you.
No, you're muted.
Yeah, sorry, I was muted. For me, I had the stereotype a bit in my head that people from Japan were very, like, also a bit reserved and that they didn't really party or were very outgoing in terms of nightlife. But when I met a person from Japan, he came to my city and we partied together. So that was like a bit of a learning opportunity, a bit of a shock. By the way, should I be keeping the time? Because we forgot, I think, to say that.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then I'll like hold up my hand if the time is up, and then you have to like wrap up your story.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, June. The next one can go.
For me, it was also have to do actually with German people because I always had the idea that German people were like not quiet or like shy, but more like very intense and like serious and like very strict in what they did. So once when I met a German person, an exchange student who came here to where I live, I had to spend a lot of time with them because they really didn't know that much Spanish, so I had to like sort of translate for them. And I found out that that was not really true, and I actually found that apparently German people are way, at least the young ones, are very like chaotic and very energetic, and like I have never met like a person with more energy in their life than that person I met, and like it was really interesting to just see someone like clash so hard against the idea I had of like German people and how they usually are.
Okay, thank you for sharing. The next one.
I used to think that people from big cities were always rushing and didn't have time for others. However, when I moved to a larger city for my studies, I met many people who were kind, patient, and willing to help others, even when you find yourself lost in the city.
When I entered to engineering, I used to think that all the guys will be like bigger and tougher than me since I'm a very short person. And I was afraid at the start because I was thinking, oh, they're not going to take me into account or anything of that. But when I entered, I realized that they were all really extrovert people. That was really rare for me because I used to think the engineers were a little bit more introverts. But when I enter, I feel the group is very open and very receiving.
Again. Okay, I'm gonna start right away if that's okay with everybody. Yeah, perfect. So as a part of round 2, I'm gonna ask another question. The question is, what is one of the most positive interactions you have or had with a person who's different from you, and what made it such a positive experience? For me, it was an older guy, like an older German guy, and he said the N-word, which was a bit like weird for me, but at the end we had a like pretty human conversation about it, and he was very understanding and very open to it, and at the end that really made it a positive experience for me, even though it didn't start off as a positive one.
Thanks for sharing this. I'm going to continue. Like for me, one of the most recent positive interactions I've had with someone different from me was when I first arrived in Mexico. Like my roommate, who I only had talked to briefly online, picked me up at the bus station in Querétaro at 2 a.m. in the morning. And I hadn't even asked her to do so. And and not only that, she even brought me quesadillas because she figured I'd be hungry after the long flight. So I was really happy. And where I'm from, people are a bit more reserved and tend to keep their distance. So I was really touched by how warm and thoughtful she was.
That's really nice. All right, for me, it was actually a very long time ago. I was on holiday. I was camping somewhere in France, and I met this other girl at the camping, and we couldn't speak each other's language, but we did like play a lot with each other. I remember that very vividly. That it was just very nice. We didn't understand each other, but it was very valuable.
Valentina, you want to go next maybe?
So I had a Taiwanese friend when I did my exchange here, and despite coming from different cultures, we shared some stories about our traditions, and we learned about how they see their way of life and how me in Mexico we see our way in life, and that was like a truly great experience. I think the mutual respect and the curiosity from it.
Maybe Julio can go first, and then we can see if
exactly. Good idea.
Some years ago, I used to work at an orphanage, and there was a nurse found there, and there was a little girl that used to have a special kind of paralysis. This was a positive interaction since I never once seen her unhappy or sad. Even though their medication, she always tried to live her life at the fullest and in the happiest way possible. So even to this day, I remember her and the things she taught me about happiness and how to live your life, even though of the problems you have.
Thank you for sharing. Ivan, is it working for you now? No, we still cannot hear you. Okay. I guess you will join in a second.
We could also continue with the next question, and Ivan gives his answer like after.
Yeah,
He's
okay.
coming.
Yeah.
He's coming already. Yeah, because I don't want a lot of cutting, because then it's gonna be a lot of cuts. But maybe we're gonna hear him now.
Okay, now?
Yes.
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 Okay, yeah. I don't know what happened. Oh, okay. My camera also just turned off. 1 second. Okay. For me, it was also an experience that was from a while ago, and it was actually one of my teachers. He was French. He had like arrived to Mexico for like a couple of years ago. And honestly, for us, it was like very intimidating because he was our teacher, and well, he didn't really speak that much Spanish. He spoke mostly English and French. And actually, even after a while, we like all began to get really well along with him because we found that he was like really friendly and like really helpful to everyone. Like even like he went further than what usually teachers did for us. So he just became like one of our favorite teachers and like one of the best experiences I had with like a foreign person from like a different culture.
Okay. Guys, thank you for sharing. And now to our final question. What is a metaphor from your own experience that illustrates how a culture clash can be overcome? For me, I thought about dancing, because when you start dancing, it's very like you're not used to it, you do things wrong, you are maybe also a bit embarrassed. But after a while, if you spend more time in that culture or with that person, you find your groove in it. And yeah, that was the metaphor for me, I guess. Yeah?
Okay, so for me, like I don't really have a metaphor for it, but I experienced culture clash when doing my internship in an international team where each person was from another country, from all over the world, and sometimes we struggled to communicate due to our like different expectations and work styles. For example, while I am very direct, other colleagues prefer to speak in a more roundabout way. But then we actively found ways to profit from each other's different backgrounds through understanding each other's different cultures. So I think the key was patience, communication, and willingness to learn from each other.
Nice. For me, I don't know if it's really a metaphor, but when I got to Mexico, it was very like immediately clear to me that people live at a very different pace than what I'm used to. And it was especially, like shocking to me when I was in line at the supermarket. Every time I'm in line at the supermarket here, everything goes so slowly, and I'm used to it like being rushed. You have to like rush. But when you're in line at the supermarket, you kind of have to, you have to kind of give up that control over wanting it to be rushed, and you just have to there's nothing you can do. You just have to wait. So that's, I think for me, you just have to like give yourself over to the culture change.
For me, I would say it's like relating more to like things like to like drawing, like art styles. Like usually when you have like several artists like coming together and begin to share their art, like you begin to see all these like different ways to do things in like art styles. But eventually, if you like eventually interact enough, you will like start to see people like maybe like sharing a tip or sharing a trick or doing something, and eventually like little pieces of everyone will like end up in other people's styles, and like everyone will become like interact really well.
So for me, I would use just like a bridge connects two places. Um, Mutual understanding can connect people from different cultures despite any differences or misunderstandings.
For me, the metaphor, we use a metaphor here in my city that is literally the bridge between two islands, which is quite literal because I live in the border with the United States and we literally were united by bridges. But there was a time back when the cities, even though we were separate, we need to come together to resolve many of the problems since many things like natural disasters and many problematics like the pandemic opened those bridges for us to unite. And now to these days, we still do events like in between the two cities.
So thank you for helping me out. So yeah, everybody can tell what they like most about the story. I liked most about Ivan's story, I guess, that it was about Germans and that we, because I'm from Germany, that we could do like a different impression. And I totally get that people view us as very strict, but we do have a different side to us.
Okay, I'm just going to continue. So for me, also Julio's story was really interesting to hear about his personal experience that, most of us refer to other cultures or countries. And you refer to your study program and your personal experiences and fears. And thanks for sharing this.
Can you guys still see me? Because I think I'm glitching at this.
We don't see you, but we hear you.
Oh, okay. Okay, then I'll just go. For me, the most memorable story was also Ivan's story, also because it was about Germans, and I, as a Dutch person, I feel like our cultures are very similar. So it was interesting to hear how people perceive a culture that's similar to mine. Yeah.
Well, I guess for me, it was just means also because I think it was a similar experience to meet someone from like a different culture, and it is nice to see other people having like the same experience of finding something out, like, specifically our Germans apparently, that apparently they have a very specific image culturally. And yeah, it has also happened a lot where that also when I have met other people, it's the same that you expect something specifically for like older generations and you just find the complete opposite.
For me, it was June's because when I had my exchange here, I had a Japanese roommate and also had the stereotypes that they were super, super quiet and no parties and all that. And it turns out it was a whole different world for me.
I also like Ivan's stories since when I got to exchange, my roommate was German and I think, he will be really close and he will not talk too much, but ended up being a really extrovert and party guy.
Okay, yeah, perfect. Then we're gonna move to our final round, and thanks again, Julio, for reminding me. And this round is about just reflecting what we just heard. And I'm gonna read the questions to you guys so you know what you can use to reflect. So one of them is what is memorable to you from what you heard, what surprised you, what challenged you in the stories you heard, and complete the sentence. I used to think, ... or ... Now I think ... Okay, I will go first. I think what I genuinely very liked is that people usually don't open up to stereotypes. Like you would never say, oh yeah, I had this and that stereotype, but we are all very vulnerable and open, and that usually doesn't happen that way, I feel like. So that was very memorable to me, but it also surprised me. And what also surprised me is I never thought about, because for me it was automatically going from foreigners or other people, but Valentina, for example, used like people from her own country, but just like people from the city and other people, and that was also something I didn't think about, so that was a new perspective for me. Yeah.
Okay. For me, it was memorable hearing how people navigate to find like common ground despite the differences in like in cultures, and that was really impactful. And what surprised me was like the range of perspectives and how people's backgrounds and experiences shape their views in ways I hadn't considered it before.
For me, that was memorable was what you, Jasmine, talked about how like how you can kind of get respect as a woman for certain groups. And I thought it was a really interesting story. Yeah, I think that's also kind of what surprised me, to be honest. Yeah, I thought it was just very interesting perspective.
Well, for me, I think what I found most memorable are the like all stories, and I think it's also like modern generation thing is that like we like may have a stereotype that very quickly are like able to adapt or like change or like accept that things are not as we expect. So I really do like to know that like we all are able to do that here, and well, that most people I have met like are also able to change and adapt their ideas.
What was memorable to me is how similar many of our experiences are, despite coming from different cultural backgrounds. Also surprised me that how quickly we can connect from storytelling.
What's memorable for me is also the fact that we have encountered similar experiences, even though we are very different between us. Also, what surprised me is how through storytelling and not knowing very well each other, we can open and talk about these type of experiences and maybe get to know a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that was a really good round. Like, I'm very surprised. It was very smooth, and I learned something. I hope you learned as well. And now for our closing ritual, I will do the same what I did at the beginning, but just think about what you heard from here. Just take like 10 seconds and quiet to reflect on it. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for participating. Thank you for telling your stories and being so honest and vulnerable. And that was our storytelling circle.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.